is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
Oh, how you feeling, my man? You feeling good?
Yes, sir.
You vacationing still, right?
No, back home. Back home
there you go. You are back home. Okay.
Yeah,
All right. I got the delay one because usually I have the live screen to my right inside studio. So when you see me looking to the right, it seems like I'm not looking at you, but I'm actually looking at you because I'm looking at the live screen watching you here. The one I have in front of me now is delayed, obviously, because it's on YouTube. All right. You wrote about it. We heard it on Pat McAfee's show. And it was nice to hear Brian Urlacher, talk about it, because it's kind of twisted because we kind of slam Urlacher by saying, why isn't Zach in when Urlacher's in when they both deserve to be in? You know what I mean? It's one of those things.
Yeah.
And it's not like you're trying to slam his career. You're just saying, well, he belongs. But it was nice to hear a player say, Zach has the same stats or better than some of us, and he's not in. And why the hell isn't he in? And then when Pat asked him, why isn't he in? Well, I don't know, maybe because he's 5'10". Mm-hmm. And so it was just nice to see, players, because Peyton Manning's acknowledged it in the past too, that he's a guy that should be in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, and the same with Brady did the same thing. Yep. No, and the thing and it's not so much that Urlacher is in and Zach isn't. The fact Urlacher was a first ballot.
Yeah.
Election. And now Zach's been eligible since 2014, and he's not in yet. And so that there's not that kind of discrepancy between the two. Even if you want to believe that Urlacher was better, Urlacher was a better athlete. Urlacher was a freak as an athlete.
That's why he's in.
Zach made up for it with this.
Dude, that's why he's in, because he's prototypical. And because that's how we think, that he's prototypical. And if somebody else is not prototypical, he's an overachiever. And so then we don't give him the same respect. And I'll give you what I'm going to lead you right into and light a little fire under your ass and everybody else. Same shit goes on with Justin Herbert and Tua Tagovailoa. The short quarterback to the guy that is perfectly built like the quarterback that you would want. If you were going to design an ideal quarterback physically, it's Justin Herbert. The size, the arm, the athleticism, it's Justin Herbert. It ain't going to be Tua. Yet Tua's the one that's been the most successful quarterback out of the two guys, but yet he's not going to get the same love because they look at him
in college. Don't say he's been the most successful guy of the two in the NFL. He hasn't.
Yeah, he has.
He just flat out hasn't. And
he has a championship. He has a championship. The other guy doesn't.
You said that's correct. I said in college.
And neither guy's gone to the playoffs here. They all won 9 games. So
are we really going to compare? First of all, okay, a couple of things, if I may. Okay. If you're going back to college, yeah, Tua was a better college quarterback than Herbert. There's no debating that. As far as in the NFL, if you're going to suggest that Tua has been anywhere near Justin Herbert level in the NFL, I think you're completely off the rails.
No. Of course not. He doesn't have what Justin Herbert has. So it's hard for him to have that kind of success. He doesn't have the receiving core. He doesn't have the running game. Doesn't have a better line. Doesn't even have a better offensive staff.
All that stuff aside, if you can't see a difference between the two, I can't help you. Here's the thing.
That's my point. That there's the bias. There's the bias.
But here's the thing, Big O.
Urlacher runs like a deer and looks like a Adonis, and Zach Thomas looks like a midget linebacker that is an overachiever. And that's why they've shit on his career, and that's why they elevate the other guy to first ballot, because he's prototypical and Zach is not. So in our minds, we're already dissing the shorter guy, the shorter woman, the person that has less than the other, when they're just as good, but they are just different.
Okay, first of all, speak for the Hall of Fame voters, not for me, because I'd have put Zach immediately on a par with Brian Urlacher. I will also maintain that if you ask me the most dominant player on defense for the Dolphins, or the best player on defense for the Dolphins over the past 20 years, Jason Taylor's a first ballot Hall of Famer, and to me, It's Jason and Zach on the same level.
That's fine.
But,
I have
but
no problem with that. I watched him like you did. I have no problem. I don't hold his shortness against him.
I don't either.
I don't hold Tua's shortness against him either. You know what I mean? That's
I don't either. But here's the thing: if you're more limited physically, you need more things both around you, and everything has to be more precise. Your margin for error decreases.
Right.
Justin Herbert's margin for error is a lot bigger than Tua's because he's 6'6" and he's got a rocket for an arm.
Exactly.
So Tua, everything has to be very precise, and everything has to be great around him. And again, if you need everything around you to be elite, you're not elite. I've said that before. I'm going to say it again.
So then Drew Brees wasn't elite.
You're gonna throw me back to the one outlier in the past 20 years. Sure, there are outliers.
So
Those
Greasy wasn't elite. Greasy wasn't elite either then.
Bob Greasy was a perfect cerebral quarterback for a team that won because of its defense, because of its running game, and because of its quarterback, which probably was 7th in the list of reasons why they won. I mean, come on, are you serious with me right now?
I'm just saying you're saying Greasy wasn't elite either, right? I'm just saying, okay, that's fine. Okay. That's
give me the top 3 NFL quarterbacks of the 1970s. I mean, top 5. Would you put Bob Greasy in there? You're going to have to think long enough. Okay. No. So Bob Greasy, I mean, come on. I mean, again, he was a perfect quarterback for that system because, again, he could use his very, very smart, and he understood Dolphins weren't winning because of his arm. The Dolphins were winning because of that sick offensive line and because you had like 3 stud running backs behind them. So, and no, I don't want to like portray myself as being Mr. Objective and all that. I don't buy this BS. Like, I don't look at Zach Thomas's career in any lesser way. To me, it's actually more impressive what he did in our locker because
it happens to. It's human nature. It happens to people. They look at the lesser talented person, and they don't give them the same credit as the person who is naturally gifted. It just happens that way. It happens in certain scenarios. And in this scenario with Zach, I think it happens just like I think it happens to a certain level with Herbert and Tua. Same thing, because physically they're just so impressive. When you look at Urlacher and when you look at Herbert, they just are flat out impressive, physical specimens. You know what I'm saying? And the guy that isn't considered the physical specimen, but yet is a great player, is just looked at as the overachiever. Not a great player. It's a shame.
Yeah. No, I mean, I refuse to be lumped into that category. I look at production. Drew Brees was a great player. There's a difference between Drew Brees was not a great athlete because he was short, didn't have necessarily a great arm, then it wasn't particularly fast, but he was a great player. I look at production and purely.
Why can't Tua do the same thing?
I never, and if you're going to recall and quote me correctly, I didn't say it's impossible for him to do it. I said I have my doubts, and he also hasn't done it yet.
Why? He was great in college. Why can't?
And Dorsey was great in college. Was he great in the NFL?
Yeah,
Rex Grossman was great in college. Was he great in the NFL?
Okay, but Herbert wasn't great in college.
Josh Heupel.
Herbert wasn't great in college.
He's got the tools. There are a lot of examples of players who became better NFL players than college. Because I've talked to people in Oregon, and to a man, they're like, what they did with the offense and what they were asking Justin Herbert to do, that's criminal negligence. That's how ridiculous.
Yeah, that's how it does look. That's how it does look. But then again, you go back to the Houston game where you had a shot to get to the playoffs and cut that lead to 1, and
it's one game. Come on, man.
Hey, man, that's your season, buddy. That's the easy game. I mean, dude, if you are Adonis, my brother, if you are God, if you are that good, you don't lose to the Texans. I'm just saying, doggy.
It's a team game. Their entire team sucked that day. By the way, if I'm the Chargers. I'm calling you right now. I'll make you a trade straight up Herbert for Tua. Are you making the trade?
No, I'm staying with what I have right now. No, I'm fine with Tua. I think Tua's the better quarterback.
I'm sorry, my man, but get yourself checked out.
No, listen, I totally get it with all of you out there. He's the better talent. That doesn't mean he's the better quarterback.
Okay.
That has never meant to be the better quarterback.
I agree, but in this case, he's both.
No, see, but you're going out on the limb that he'll be the great quarterback. You've never seen it.
He was great last year.
No, you've seen
What are you talking about? You're
seen
pointing out one bad game he had, and the entire team sucked.
Hey, dude, he won 9 games with that team. He won 9 games. If you're
The
that great
defense
with that
sucked.
team, you should have been in the playoffs, dude.
Wrong. The defense sucked. Look at the games that the Chargers won and Herbert's role in those wins, and compare that to the Dolphins, the games the Dolphins won, and Tua's roles in those. And if you're going to tell me you don't see a difference, again, I know you're a huge Tua fan. I get it.
I know our defense was absolutely shitty against all the good teams the first half of the season, and then they stuffed the stats in the second half of the season against all the shitty teams.
And how many games was able?
By the way, that's what I saw.
How many games was Tua able to pull out when the defense wasn't performing? Look at the 8 wins.
Right.
Look at the 9 wins they had on the season. Tell me a game where, tell me games where it was really Tua who was the difference in the game.
I don't know how many there were of those. Maybe 1 or 2, something like that. Not much.
There was one Jets game I remember. I think the first at Jets game actually. Maybe you give it to him.
Maybe 1 or 2.
Okay.
Yeah, he doesn't have enough around him to be able to do that kind of stuff.
Yeah, okay.
It's true. Does he have any Pro Bowl receivers? Does he have any?
He does now. We'll see. So we'll see.
No, that's now. I asked you last year. Did he have any Pro Bowl receivers?
Does not make players around him better, which is a mark of a great quarterback.
Right. Well, I mean, yeah, I know. And in LA, he made all those great receivers great, right? Because of course Keenan Allen needed him. Right.
No.
Mike Williams needed him, right? No, of course. Yeah.
No.
Those guys weren't accomplished already, but they needed him. Come on.
Okay. Here's the other question. Put Tua with the Chargers last year. Okay.
He's in the playoffs.
Okay.
He's in the playoffs. 10 games.
Bullshit.
Put
Herbert with the Dolphins last year, and I say they're in the playoffs.
That's right. You'll see he'll be in the playoffs this year because you gave him the coach and the talent. You'll see. See, that's the difference where I'm not – I don't argue with any of you out there that Herbert is the way better talent because he is, bro. He's perfect. He's built that way. I want to see here. I want to see key moments.
Yeah.
I want to see you win the games that you got to win and get them into the hump because I didn't see you do that in Oregon. And I haven't seen you yet here elevate a team to the playoffs. And I think you had a team that could have gone to the playoffs. The Dolphins weren't a team that was going to go to the playoffs, not with that head coach, not with that offensive staff, and not with that offense.
How closely did you follow the Chargers last year, Big O?
I followed them a lot. I watched it a lot.
Yeah. I follow them a lot too. And if you think that was on Herbert, I don't know what to tell you. And if you watch that Vegas game at the end of the year where he made 6th throw after 6th throw, when the Chargers kept insisting on having Storm Norton, who, no offense, is a horrible offensive lineman, as bad as any of the Dolphins.
And their head coach also makes some questionable calls too, by the way.
That's even beside the point, though. They insisted on having Storm Norton blocked Max Crosby one-on-one when he was in his face, Justin Herbert's face, the entire night, and he made 6th throw after 6th throw to put this team in position to win or pull out a tie, which they would have gotten if they could stop the Raiders from gaining 15 yards on 2 straight carries when the entire world knew they were running the ball. So,
by the way, Jose Banos, who sends in a super chat, says Ravens game, Jets game, the Cardinals game from 2 years ago, and not to mention the Jags game that he put the team in position to win at the end, and the D failed him.
They lost against the Jags, and he had a pick, and against Baltimore, they had 10 points.
But he did give him. He's right. He did give him the lead, and then the defense screwed up.
Well, in what game? Sorry, they led when he came into the game against Baltimore, and then X got.
No. He's saying the Jags game that he did give him the lead, and then the defense gave it up. Yes, he's right about that.
He also threw a pick, and it wasn't. I'm not saying it was his fault they lost, but they didn't win the game. So that goes against your premise of like, if Herbert was so great, why didn't make the playoffs? Well, if Tua was so great in that game, why did they lose? You can't use that as a game. I asked you for games where he was the biggest difference in them winning.
I didn't say it. He said it, but he's right. He's right that Tua did give him the lead late in that Jags game, and then the defense gave up the game. He is right about that. That's all I'm saying.
That's Atlanta against the Jacksonville. They tied the game. They weren't leading, and they went for it on fourth down, and they got stuffed.
That's
or maybe
right.
They,
Right.
or maybe they were leading, and the guy kicked a late field goal.
He did tie him. He did tie. That's right. You are correct. You are correct. What is it? Do we have here? What else? Draft Herbert as one of my favorite fantasy teams last year, and he helped me win $700. I think that decides it all right there. This guy won $700.
Happy for the dude. I mean, seriously.
So Herbert did produce something. Now I was wrong. I'm sorry. I apologize. Herbert won $700 in fantasy for Eric Storm. So
way to go, Eric.
Eric, way to go. I was wrong. Screw the Chargers. Eric Storm won $700 in fantasy thanks to Justin Herbert. That's really the key there. All right, so what do we do? Just cross our fingers now and hope nobody gets arrested for 6 weeks?
Correct, and you hope the guys who are rehabbing continue to progress. We have Raheem Mostert yesterday on Twitter saying he's getting close, which is okay. Does that mean he's going to be ready for the start of training camp? When Mike McDaniel himself said the hope is he's ready for week 1.
I think he probably, you know why? He knew he would be ready for week 1, but he doesn't want to say, oh, he might be ready for camp. Oh, well, it's a week later. I think he kind of wanted to put it like the safe spot. You know what I'm saying? So that way he's not asked about it all. Oh, whoa, rehab went a little better than we expected, and he's back earlier, Because by the way, if it's week 1, then he starts on the PUP list because that means he didn't get practice time. You know what I mean? So
yeah, but then you're shelving him for 6 weeks. I don't know if that's something you want to do.
But that's what I'm saying. If he's not ready till week 1, then he's weeks away from actually getting him into football shape, is what I'm saying. That's all.
Correct. But the second he starts practicing, you can't go on PUP. So
right.
No, and the bigger question is there's a difference between being back at 100% and being the same guy he was, because obviously this guy makes his money with his speed, and he could be fine physically where there's no pain, but is he going to have the explosion back? That's the key with him, and then Armstead's the other one too, because I remember asking Armstead during one of the OTA's media availabilities, so you're saying you'll be ready for the start of training camp, and his answer was basically, when I get in there, it'll be full speed ahead, which is not the same as saying, yes, I'll be ready for the start of training camp. So that's something to keep an eye on because obviously, especially with Armstead, that's a major important piece right there.
Are you expecting an indefinite suspension with Deshaun Watson? Because I am. I think there's
indefinite. Oh, that's interesting.
Indefinite. Because I think the league is going to get to a point where they're going to say, yeah, you need to settle all of this crap before we put, because it's now going up to 26 and we don't know when it's going to end. And so it's like, this is going to take forever. If you're the league, you're better off. Like, I don't even know how they gave them access a couple days ago to talk to them. That's stupid on their part, but you gotta, if you're the league, you need to separate church and state here and get everybody out of this whole mess. That way the Browns can say, well, listen, we're going to talk about the players that are here and you can just move on until he comes back. I think an indefinite suspension is what this league needs to do. I think they'll come to their senses. But what do you think?
Yeah, except the only problem with that, though, is, and say what you want about the Browns and their decision to bring the guy in, but if I'm the Browns, I mean, I bitch to high heaven if you're going to suspend him indefinitely now because there are unsettled civil lawsuits, which was the case all of 2021, and the NFL did nothing with him. So I kind of be thinking in terms of like fairness for the Browns. I don't buy the idea that they're gonna hold off on making a decision because of pending civil lawsuits. I think they're gonna go ahead and lay down the hammer, one way or another. It may be that the suspension becomes longer than it would have been because the numbers keep adding up. But I have a hard time, again, just making it indefinite suspension, because then Cleveland is okay. So how does Cleveland plan for the quarterback position? And you can say, well, that's their own problem for having dived into that situation. But again, the situation as far as Watson is concerned, isn't necessarily much different than it was last year, other than there are more lawsuits that have been tacked on.
Have you heard anybody from the building tell you, like, thank the Lord we didn't get into this mess? Huh?
No,
I didn't, like, off the record say, like, man, thank the Lord we didn't get into it, because, man,
that's not come up.
Like, dude, your life would be hell. Like, it would be boring. It would be terrible. It's like people don't realize it. Like, I remember when I was on the beat, and you were on the beat too, because you've been on this beat longer than most. I had to cover the Tony Martin money laundering case. That wasn't any fun, dude. Being 3 days hanging out outside the courtroom there in downtown, and that was back then when actually QAM was like a real sports station. They actually, paid people to be reporters and stuff. And I had to sit out there, dude, and people were like, "Oh, isn't that cool?" I'm like, "No, dude, this is no fun, bro. I want to talk about football, whether a guy is good or not, a trade, a cut. This guy starts, that guy is moving, this guy's upgrade. Well, that's what I want to talk about. I don't want to talk about all this other crap." And that's the part that people don't understand. That part is not fun. That sucks.
No, Bullygate was not fun either. I mean,
oh yeah,
yeah. No, it's not fun. I mean, it's like I'd much rather even though we've gone in circles and over and over and over and over again. It's like I'd rather debate the merits of Tua / Herbert than talk about Deshaun Watson and his situation.
Hell yeah. No matter how much you're wrong, I'd rather do that.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
Follow him on Twitter at Poupart NFL. Catch his work here twice a week, giving you all the insight, baby, on the Miami Dolphins with our Sports Grill Miami Dolphins report. Alain, as always, thank you, my brother. Have a great weekend. We'll catch up next week.
We'll talk next week, and hopefully you will have come to your senses by then.
Never. You will. By the end of this coming season. 30-plus touchdowns, playoff trip, and Herbert's going to be outside looking in, eating his popcorn. I'm going to say, see, I told you so.
No, you wouldn't do that. That's not like you. That's really not your style. That's not your style to go, I told you so. It's really
not. Me, I would never do that. The golden child is going to come through, baby.
We'll find out.
All right.
Have a good weekend.
You too, buddy. Be good. There you go. Alain Poupart with the best hat in town, Montreal Expos.